evening, and welcome to episode 3 of season 1 of the Theatre of Pies podcast. I'm Laurie, and I'm joined by my two usual hosts, Martin Wall and Stephen Hopes. We're not exactly cheery tonight after a 5-1 loss to Celtic, let's be honest. But we're going to have a debrief and we're trying to look ahead to an Ayrshire Derby as well. There is plenty to come your way over the next hour or so here on the Theatre of Pies. Whether you're watching along on YouTube, on the X, or listening on your commute to work on what will sadly not be a Victory Monday. But honestly, where on earth do we start with that? We'll start with you, Martin. Like some of the viewers and listeners may well have seen your half-time analysis over on the X. Shout out to Neil for that one. But honestly, where do we start with that?
Yeah, thanks, Laurie, and a great introduction. A very professional one, much better than me. So that's a good start. That's the positive of today. But no, the match of the halftime analysis. You said I was expecting us to come out and do something different, and if I'm honest, it just got worse. And it could have easily been double figures, and I don't think anyone in the ground could have had any complaints if that was the case. I think that's pretty much sums up how bad it was.
Yeah, I think that does sum it up pretty well. We'll get my thoughts later on. But Stephen, what were you thinking going into it? Were you as pessimistic as Martin and I, or were you trying to be the optimist of the group?
I think last week I was getting slagged for being negative, to be fair, to say that I think they would have too much for us. I think I might be right there. £11 million striker certainly helps your cause no end, but so does your defence. Dear oh dear. It's pretty schoolboy stuff, but again, it's like we have said for quite some time now. We just, when you're gifting goals to the opposition, it's not making it hard work for anybody. It's apart from the fans sitting watching it. But no great.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, before we get into the game then, and before we get into that £11 million striker of Celtic, we may as well bring up the big headline story of the game going into it today, of course. The return home, the return to Rugby Park, the lovely hybrid grass pitch. I mean, it looks fantastic, guys, doesn't it? First and foremost, looks really, really good, doesn't it?
Yeah, I must say that when you look at the pictures, I was having a chat before to someone that it doesn't do itself justice on the pictures. When you see it live, I had to go down from a usual spot halfway up on the east stand just to go and have a proper look at it and just get a couple of pictures from close up. And yeah, uh, you know, result aside today, that was a positive. Seeing that. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's really good, and credit goes to the club for giving us that pitch. I know that it was forced upon us to do that, but at the same point, they've not gone around the cheap option of it. They've gone high spec on it, and hopefully that'll benefit us in the future. There, Stephen, I don't know, what your thoughts are on the pitch from first sight there today. Impressed?
Not quite first sight for me. I actually was in the stadium previously. I had a connection with the club, so I seen it. Actually, I wasn't quite on it, but I was. Yeah, I was in the Frank Beattie and I actually seen it before today. So no, looks, as you say, looks fantastic. Also, no went with the cheap option. Probably a bit early for you guys, but probably before your time in terms of fans. But we did go with an American jet system before, way back. We had part that was supposed to be unplayable, and there was 2 games called off on it because we went. Gus Hollis, who was the groundsman at the time, who liked a bit of sand, but didn't actually know that underneath it, to keep the undersoil heating, etc., there was a noise level which the neighbours objected to in the development right behind Rugby Park, so we couldn't actually put the frost protection on after 10 o'clock at night. Therefore, the system that we spent, I think at the time, £500,000 on, an American system, with jets, etc. on it, was too noisy, but nobody obviously researched that at the time. So that was. But this looks pretty impressive. Interesting as well. Seeing some of the videos with Gal and that, actually telling you about how the plastic's actually still underneath there, and it's been built up in layers, etc. It's quite an interesting if any anoraks like myself are out there. You can actually get to see what it's actually laid like a carpet on top of, and yeah, it's quite a hybrid type system, but it's knitted together very well. If you think it's only, it's only been since sort of, did they say 40 odd days or
For
something like that? I think
40, 45,
48
I
or
think
something.
Mark
Yeah,
Gallagher
yeah, yeah.
said.
So
Aye,
yeah, so it does look very impressive for that. Pretty about the players on the top of it, but yeah, enough said about that.
aye,
But yeah,
absolutely.
I think the blue around about the side as well looks pretty good. And I see we've got a bit of sponsorship on on there as well, a wee bit of funding for that. But that looks pretty good as well, particularly on the close up maybe not so much, but certainly on the telly it looks really good. Yeah, so yeah, let's hope it benefits us. I mean, fantastic surfaces Rugby Park has had when it's been grass, so let's hope that's to the future. That's what happens, and Gal and that will just need to earn their money now because they can actually look after a surface. So
Aye, aye. Well, put it this way, they've replaced the old Hoover with the robot, but yeah, let's hope. Let's hope. I mean, as you said, Stephen, £1.4 million, and if anyone is doubting, the commitment of the club and the commitment of the fans as well, of course, with the pitching campaign, which Kelly's trust were a big part of as well. If anyone doubts Kelly's commitment going back to grass, think again. I mean, and we say as well, if you need any more kind of info on the pitch, Kelly, to be fair, the club put out a fantastic press release doing all about it and all the kind of specifications of it as well, including there is a pitch of a similar ilk to Chelsea and Aston Villa. And I mean, they're no mugs, so there you go. But as you said, Stephen, I mean, maybe back in the days when it was maybe 90s, early noughties, Gus Wallace, the groundsman, maybe you could say Enter Sandman if you will, if you want a wee Metallica reference. But I think maybe at that point we were the envy of the country, some people would say. I mean, Neil McCann mentioned it enough times, but now this is something that we can really be proud of. And even today, watching the game, even some Celtic fans who were messaging me to say they thought the pitch looked pretty good, and even they can't have any complaints about it at all. So let's just say we've got 99 problems, as we saw today, but the pitch ain't one.
Nicely put. I don't know if you just want to have a look at a couple of messages that have come in there. So, thank you there to the Killy Adventures.
Good evening.
Good evening to yourselves there. Nice to be back and nice to be getting the live chatting as well. Also, I don't know if you want to answer this one here too. It's been a interesting topic, should I say, on the group chat of ours. So Grant Hanley,
Oh
there's been a
yeah.
rumour of him potentially coming in loan. I tell you what, I was obviously of an objection to this, as many will know.
I had no idea.
But what I will say is that after watching the two games now, I've got to be honest. I mean, he probably would have done. I'm not saying we would have won games or we might have still lost both, but I think we would have looked a bit more organised. And if there was any doubts on last week, then I think today has certainly put that to bed. So I think Reese makes a good point there. But what's your feelings on that rumour?
I'll go first, then we'll hand over to Stephen with that one. I think I understand where you're coming from with Grant Hanley, Martin, because there are times where, particularly in the Scotland shot, where it really irritated me, I've got to say. I remember a particular game against Poland where we came from behind twice, looked like we were getting a point, a ball was going out, and then he just gets quite rash, slides in, gives away a penalty. But then, even if you look at him in a Scotland shot, you kind of see that he just sometimes does have the heart of a lion, that bit of leadership. You need a guy Steve Clark, who many of us listening to this podcast right now will be Clarkologists. If the guy that he trusts implicitly, you've got to kind of think there's something in him. But I think with Grant Hanley, there's there's maybe a misconception or misunderstanding as to what he is. He's a guy who's spent the vast majority of his career, in the top two leagues in England and has played to a reasonable level there. I mean, if you ask anyone who's a regular at Carrow Road, I mean, Norwich fans seem to really appreciate him. And it's just maybe we're seeing him at the wrong end of his career, that I very much accept. And we were discussing this in previous episodes, I'm sure Stephen, you brought it up. We kind of need guys who have that kind of experience of being there and done it. That's what a defence lacks, and it really lacked that today. I mean, Stephen, if you would like to give your take on the Grant Hanley situation, you can feel free.
Yeah, highly entertaining as I was sitting roadside in Perth on Friday, I've got to say, as my phone kept pinging. Um, at one point I was going to jump in, but I thought, no, Martin seemed to be enjoying his tete-a-tete slash debate. I'm a bit with Martin, I've got to say on it. There's a rick in him, unfortunately. But if you look at evidence of what we've seen thus far, there's more than a rick in everybody else. I mean, there's rumours obviously still bubbling about that Big Stranger and Burton, apparently 100, 150 grand. Whether some of the money maybe is towards the loan for Grant Hanley, I don't know. That move
Don't know what
seems to
they've
have been
been watching.
talking about. Well, I don't know yet. It was
Right.
talking about, and then it's kind of went cold. So whether it's agent talk or no, I'm not so sure. But
Probably.
no, the Grant Hanley one, I very much like yourself, Laurie. I think he's at the wrong end of his career. However, he does have some leadership skills and maybe talking younger players through the game. I mean, I think the boy Udeco, I mean, he actually looks as if he's fairly handy, but he needs somebody to talk him maybe through games because he seems to get into
Yeah.
trouble and back out of trouble in the same move, which seems a bit strange. So maybe if you had somebody experienced like that who's got a couple of hundred caps behind him, maybe talking him through a game and just educating him through the game. He's no for anybody running at you quickly. I mean, you say a lot about Celtic, but today, I mean, some of the rotation and some of the pace, I mean, just frightening, coming at us. We played into their hands, in fairness, with the shape and the tactics. I'm sure we'll get into that, but that would be my worry that somebody quick, or indeed, a forward, a set piece or whatever. I'm not convinced Hanley would be a great fit for that point of view. So I think maybe somebody a bit bigger, more athletic. Where do you get these guys? It's a struggle. I get that. So maybe it's where we're at. Maybe a 6 month deal, till January, which is I think it's getting kind of muted about. Might not be a bad thing at this time. We certainly need to address that. I mean, if McCann has sat and watched that today, and I get he said he's taking ownership on it, but if he's sat and watched that and it doesn't believe that there's no still serious work to do in the transfer window, then there's something wrong. Because yeah, it's definitely needing addressed. So that's my tuppence on Grant Hanley. So hopefully that maybe keeps David Hanna and Alan semi-happy because I was kind of neither one or the other there. So.
Yeah,
I
there you go. So you've got yourself off the fence, no longer getting splinters. But I think that's actually about fair. I mean, Grant Hanley's not a name that's going to get anyone excited. Although maybe if you're a kind of stats person in Scotland, I mean, it might be exciting for you. He's probably, I'm willing to guess, or speculate that he's probably the most capped player that we've probably signed. I mean, what's he got? Like 70 Scotland caps? But that's kind of by the by. I think what is important though right now, and it's not the be all and end all, sometimes as football fans we're fickle and we like to complain. And sometimes last season, one of the guys who was complaining about quite regularly was Robbie Dees, and I see here the Kelly Ventures is saying that, well, we're missing Dees a little bit. And I think there may be an argument to that. I know Stephen, particularly many a time you maybe bemoaned his lack of positional sense, which again is totally valid. But we've certainly seen a difference with him out of the team, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean, I sat and turned into the guy behind me who, again, is maybe no a Rory fan, and said to him, how often would you have actually turned around and said, we need big D's in there? Where is he? we kind of need him at the minute. But again, I think it's again, he lacks quite a bit. However, he does again. He does have a bit of a vocal presence as such, So again, maybe talking the younger players through the games as well, sort of thing. Whilst maybe not being great himself, he might be able just to kind of. It'll really depend how he sees the formation going forward, I suppose, as well, though, doesn't it? Because judging by the sound of what we got after the game, doesn't really sound as if he thought that his tactics were overly bad, which is kind of slightly alarming. Similar to maybe when his second season at Dundee, where he hadn't addressed the defensive issues and kind of came unstuck. It's far too early for me to sort of say that, but I think there are certain times where you play formations against certain teams, and certainly I'm no, a bit gun ho against Celtics, no the one to be implementing that
shows
against.
a bit of arrogance, to be honest, and doesn't give
Mm.
enough respect. The champions at the end of the day, and I think like even though I predicted a draw, I think you two predicted a 3-1 defeat, and well, to be honest, it could have been more than five, as I mentioned. But I mean, at the end of the day, regardless of whether they on form or really good or not. They're the champions for a reason, and you have to give them respect. So I just felt as though we gave them way too much the way we started the game, and obviously we'll go into that. But yeah, you're right. I think there is teams that you'd probably want to think, right, okay, let's go for it, and ones that you don't. So
Aye, absolutely. It was almost a case of, I don't know what you think, Martin, it's almost a case of we gave them too much respect by trying to give them absolutely none in a way that it just completely backfired. And as you say, it's not the first time Neil McCann's done this. And like, again, one of the comments here, I mean, to go toe to toe with them was suicidal. There we are, quite a strong word, but very true. Twice now, he said he'll start the defence. He beat on Friday against them, and he'll be treading water. I mean, again, we'll get into that a little bit later on, of course, that game. But I do think this is quite an interesting juncture here from McCann. Of course, came in January, did very well recruiting players to save us. No defenders, mind you. Now here we are. Well, what are we talking now? Like 8 months on, effectively. And in some ways we've progressed, but in some ways we're in the same position. So I think that's very true. But today, I think your comment there is very fair. I mean, and there are certain actions that were probably suicidal as well throughout the game, which I'm sure we'll get into. I mean, let's we've put it off for 17 minutes. Let's get actually into the action now. We tried our best to kind of drag that out there, but I think we unfortunately need to address the elephant in the room. So, of course, 5-1, not kind of what you hope for, but what a lot of us were expecting on here. But Martin, I'll come to you first, right? When we actually started off, did you actually think we started pretty well, or was I kind of deceived a little bit?
first, I suppose before we actually sort of try and dissect it as quickly as we can, we may as well just bring up the sort of we're going to screen share it and or try and see if this works. It's the first time we've done it, so
So,
we'll
for the
hope.
benefit of those who are not in vision, we're going to try and get some football action up on the screen so Martin can show off some of the stats. But we'll talk through it in case you're listening on the Spotify. There we go.
So obviously here's the lineup. If we can just get that onto the screen there.
There we
So
go.
let's right. So I mean, if we look at ours first, there we know we're still sticking with this diamond formation. Um, for me, you know, Sean and Larson, I like him as a player, but I just think he's too attacking. Um, and for a fullback, he's not his defensive side is not his best attribute. I mean, he can defend, but he gets caught too high up the pitch because of the way we play. Brandon for me, yeah, a bit of a strange one as well, and how he, again likes to get forward, but it just means that when we do play this attacking football, gung ho, so to speak, we're leaving two boys at the back in Waifeko, who's hardly played many games as a professional player, and then Stanger, who's only had 19 games before this season in the top flight and has been playing, championship football and that before then. And again, not much game time between them. You're quite exposed to the counter, as you're saying, and when you've got people like Yang and Duran and Nygren picking passes out, what I said about last week in the heat map is Yafeko and Stanger are getting dragged out to the fullback positions to stop crosses coming in. Effectively, you want your fullbacks doing that, which then is leaving space for this guy called is it Ho? That
Who
they've signed.
almost think,
Yeah,
who
oh,
are
is it?
you? Casper, who?
Right, right,
Casper.
fair enough. Okay, so
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 basically we let Casper ghost in.
yeah, exactly. And the thing is, right, this is a striker that scored 25 goals last season, 6 in the Champions League and 3 assists. This is a high quality striker that you do not want to let out of your sight. And unfortunately, we obviously done that. So we needed to be a bit more clever, and I don't think we like and this is where Derek McInnes, I think Alan mentioned it, how he's quite clever, where when Watson played, he would stick Watson on, say, McGregor or whoever, that just try and nullify the attack a bit. I just think we were way too open. And the first goal was where Brandon and Ring pressed, and then we just got exposed straight away. And then obviously we leave the striker unmarked at the back stick. It's a simple header. So the way we opened up, but then probably going back to your question there, Laurie. Yeah, the first 20 minutes we were the better team, no doubt about it. I think we caused 4 or 5 problems. We had chances to score, and Kilty, produced a fantastic effort, which probably should have done better. But you credit the keeper for the save, and you just felt at that point that if we needed to score, and obviously we didn't, and the rest unfolded. But so yeah, that's the initial shape there. But we talked about this diamond and that, and being expansive with the fullbacks, and I've talked about how our centre backs get spread out. Would you say that's a fair assessment on what you saw, because you would have seen from close up where you sit, Laurie?
Yeah, I think that is quite a fair assessment, and obviously sitting in the Moffat stand, you get quite a good view of, like, say, the opposition's wide men, like Duran, for example, and Yang. Duran in particular, I thought was causing us all sorts of bother, and it just looks very naive. It was almost as if, like, obviously there's been a lot of chat in the media about how Celtic don't recruit players or haven't recruited this, haven't recruited that, but the two main guys they have brought in Duran and who, we appear to have just not looked at him at all. I'm not actually accusing you, McCann, of that, because we're certainly not that naive, right? But I kind of think that we just looked as if we'd assumed that just they wouldn't be ready. It was almost as if we thought, let's go with the same approach as we did in, like, February time when we went 2 goals up. But here's the thing: Celtic and no football coach anywhere is daft. So if anything, I think they were prepared for us going all guns blazing the way we did, because after the game today, I actually put myself through some of the Sky coverage, and Sean Maloney, who of course was on the touchline for Martin O'Neill today, best wishes to him, by the way. Basically, Sean Maloney said that we're a good team going forward. We like to score, but we like to concede as well. So you could tell that Celtic quite clearly had done their homework on us, and knew quite clearly to target quite an inexperienced defence. Although I would say, if Greg Kelty scored earlier on in the game, or just if we took one of those chances maybe before Celtic scored their third, it could have been a different game. It felt like, because were we bad? Yes, but were we 5-1 bad? Potentially not. That's the thing. Like, but that's why it's hard. And I mentioned those initial 20 minutes. Here's a question for both of you, and indeed everyone in the chat as well. Feel free to get involved. Just, does these games where we start well under Neil McCann protect him a little bit? Do we have a little bit of a? Is there a little bit of a fallacy almost created, because you have, oh, we played well for 20 minutes, so we must be good then. Or, like, as someone in the chat said there, we were the better team until they scored the second, with which I would roughly concur with. Yeah, just strange. Does having a good start protect Neil McCann and give him too much credit? I'm not sure, but I'm just finding out there to see what you think.
Yeah, I'll let Stephen maybe answer first there. What's your
Well,
thoughts there?
well, again, to be fair, a good start's no 2 minutes and 1-0 down. I
True.
get some of it.
Absolutely.
I get some of it. That's no good start by any stretch of the imagination. Kilty was about 10 minutes in before Kilty had that good chance, and directly off the corner, Tyrese is a good chance as well. But like not even 10 minutes later, 20 minutes, Max made that double save that was pretty miraculous actually. Because so you could have been 2-0 down at 20 minutes in. So I don't quite go with the concept that we're good for 20 minutes. We weren't good for 20 minutes. We're down 1-0 at 2 minutes. That's no good start by any stretch of the imagination. We then probably had a 10-minute period where we should have done better. Kilty was very, very unlucky. But again, that to me showed that Celtic were there for the taking. But if we picked him off cleverly, and tried to actually exploit what they had. But you've got to shut the back door as well, and that's where I don't think that obviously Martin's got the diamond up there and showing you where we're trying to play football at the back. This is Pep Guardiola stuff when you're playing with George Stranger, and
Aye.
Brad, Brandon. How Brandon stayed on that part for 90 minutes, I have no idea. But that worries me because Neil McCann clearly thinks he's good enough to stay on the part. I don't know what game he was watching, but you're just thinking we shouldn't be trying to play the ball back to the keeper and try to be silky when we don't have the players that have the ability to do it. I mean, it just
Aye.
baffles me beyond belief. As I say, I get we had maybe a 10-minute spell where we looked good, and again the wee breaks just didn't quite fall for us in the box. It's too much the other side. The basic defending is just terrible. But again, as you said, Laurie, as well, you've got to look at likes of Duran. He had pace to burn. Big Casper, he's going to be a handful for a lot of defences as well. But yeah, they've definitely done their homework on us, I definitely don't think this is a time where the diamond formation should have been employed. And I think if that had been Kettlewell, he would have been absolutely pilloried for that performance today because he had no plan B or C. McCann didn't seem to be able to change the game in game. We're 3-0 down in 35 minutes. I mean, it was just and you think we should have been trying to change, particularly when we've been on top.
And changing the game in game is something that obviously, whether you like me mentioning this or not, of course, Derek McInnes used to always be one for doing it. I remember a game in particular, not too dissimilar to this, against Celtic, where he made a couple of subs in the first half. I'm not calling for Neil McCann to have done that, but, and I'm going to bring Derek McInnes up for a second thing. Part of our issue today, I felt, and again, anyone can get involved here, I feel like the issue really today was just a lack of, to use Derek McInnes' word, a lack of being streetwise. You're okay to go to Celtic and play a certain way and be expansive, but we just went, well, Stephen used the word gung ho. It just felt as if, oh well, free hit, nothing to lose, just go for it. If we get smashed, we can at least say we've tried. But here's the thing: would you rather value a bit of pragmatism for a little while, or just calm the game down, try and not just not lose it, but just stop it being as frantic and then see if we can get them on the break of a set piece? Or do you want to throw caution to the wind? I mean, I'm kind of on the fence there, but it just felt daft at times today, didn't it?
I think
Like almost like kamikaze kind of thing.
I think like going back to the point where they lose the first goal, I actually thought, I don't know if people disagree with it, but I actually thought when we pressed, we got the wrong spin of the ball because I think Brandon and Ring went for the ball to try and close down, and it seemed that the ball span the other way. And see if that span the way that we wanted, it just felt that bit of luck there. But then we still did, and then obviously they're going to get the cross in because we're out of position. But the annoying thing was that the guy had a free header at the back post, and I think that was what annoyed me more than Brandon and Ring going for the ball sort of together and not winning it, because at the end of the day that happens, and they tried to win the ball, but the fact that we've let a guy just nod it in at the back stick was what really infuriated me. And yeah, we didn't start well because we were 1-0 down after a minute, and you're like, God, here we go. But I disagree with that, Stephen. I actually thought we did go and attack him for 20 minutes and that. But then you're right, Stroyak did keep us in it. There was some terrific saves, and obviously we're looking at the stats and how bad they were. But I did feel for 20 minutes that we had the hold of them, and we could have easily been level, and we would have deserved to be level. But that was probably the best part of our game, was the opening 20 minutes, other than that first minute where we concede. So I'd probably agree to a point there on that, Stephen. But it's at the end of the day, right? We didn't. You shouldn't be playing the way we did. As soon as that second goal goes in and the third, I was expecting at half time for us to be like, right, let's stop fanning around with the ball at the back. Let's just, as you're saying, go back to basics. It's clearly not working. Let's not get horsed. Let's not embarrass ourselves. Let's win and it's again rephrasing back to Derek McInnes, and I said this to Neil at half time, is what Derek McInnes used to say. He used to admit he got it wrong, or sometimes he didn't, but he would make the changes. Dundee United away was another example of that when we were sort of 3-0 down. But he always used to say, like, let's go and win the second half, or he used to say at the end of the game, oh yeah, we did well, we won the second half. So for me, that was what the message should have been, is like, look, shut up, don't concede anything stupid, don't do anything daft, get rid of it if needed. Let's just try and hit them on the counter, try something a bit different, tighten it up a bit at the back, and try and do something different. And I mean, I haven't even, like, I sort of, well, strikes obviously at fault for the goal, right? But part of me is like what you mentioned, Stephen, about this Pep Guardiola play. Joe Hart got famously dumped because he wasn't good with his feet and whatnot. We're expecting players like Stanger, who's not good at his feet either, to be playing football. Strayak clearly isn't comfortable because he nearly got caught last week away at St Johnstone.
Yeah.
He nearly got caught in the first half, I think, a couple of times, with some really bad short kicks. And then it finally cost us. I mean, he may as well just turn around and just say, look, there you go, there's 3-0.
Yeah,
Or 4-0,
I
4-0, sorry. Just boot it in the net.
yeah.
Like he just literally, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And it just evaporates any glimmer or slight hope of maybe getting back into the game,
Yeah,
and
it
you
just
always feel
killed
like you want to.
it.
Killed
It
any
killed
atmosphere
that
whatsoever.
killed any atmosphere, any of the momentum we built up. Whether you think it was 20 minutes, when I saw Max a couple of times try that pass, it was honestly, and I really like Max, but that was a real heart and mouth moment, and it was just. And I will say though, to Max's credit, at least according to Neil McCann in the post match, he had obviously put his hands up and apologised. But then here's the thing: it's not on Max too much, because obviously it's clearly, and it's the whole team are doing it. It's clearly what he's been told to do. So it's something we really need to look at the team. And I remember saying to you guys off air, and I'm going to certainly say this on air as well. I'm not personally thinking we need a wholesale kind of change in how we play, and I don't want Neil McCann to necessarily abandon his principles, because I respect a lot of what he's trying to do. But I think the biggest thing is just needing to be willing to adapt a little bit more. It's almost a bit like, to use a good Celtic comparison actually, it's a bit like when they had Ange Postecoglou. His attitude was very much my way or the highway, which we saw when he left Celtic. He wasn't necessarily um, the most successful with. So a bit like that, almost. Neil McCann doesn't need to abandon his principle at all. He needs to adapt a little bit. And I see here John Leafeco, a man who I felt a bit bad for today, and I think Martin, you kind of feel the same way, don't you?
Yeah, so I'm just looking at this heat map here, right? So this is just to sort of briefly before we move on. So you're looking at, and I was doing this last week with the centre backs as well, because obviously this is the bit that's concerning. So the majority of his heat map is quite out on a left back position, which if you were playing as a back three, you could understand, because your left sided centre back, your right sided centre back, you're not more naturally going to be out wider. But he was outside stopping crosses quite a lot coming in. You could see the pressure he was put under. And if I go to the opposite side, so if we go to Stanger, again, look at this here. He's
Nice.
up at the halfway line at times. He's
Up the
all over
halfway
the
line,
place.
God.
Right? The gap is massive, which allows, if you look at Negrin here, he's getting loads of space all over. So he's having a lot of joy. Duran, again, on attacking this way, he was having a lot of joy down there. But if you go to the centre backs then for Celtic, so Carter Vickers, look how close he is here, all over, nearer. And the same with Trusty here. Again, it's a lot closer in terms of where they are. Yeah. Whereas ours are over here, they're over here, they're over here. It's just all over the
And
place. And to
for,
add to
for
that,
and for the benefit of those who aren't in vision, just to be clear, George Stanger and Jean Leafeco may as well have been playing at fullback at certain points, whereas the likes of Cameron Carter Vickers was pretty much glued to his centre back berth.
and then if you look at this, so as I was saying, Waifako here, but look at the job that Sean and Larson does. Hence, what I'm saying, great in attack, but defensively,
Well, it was
he's
again for the benefit of everyone else. He was barely even at left back, and that's not me having a go at Larson. It's just where he was.
so if you're gonna do that and play for people that kind of see, but Sean and Larson and Brandon, and they're going to be flying forward right in attack. You need in Tish Bowler just to sit, or whoever you need. I don't want him. I don't want Tish Bowler up here. You want unless obviously the phase of the play's moving, but he's sort of all over the place. You need Tish Bowler really sitting to protect them too, especially two inexperienced centre backs as well. I feel as though we've just tactically got it wrong, and that's the reason why. But instead of admitting defeat and that, Neil McCann seemed to be what I would say was a bit stubborn in that
Mhm.
and not wanting to change it. And credit, we talk about Stryak, right, and the mistake, and it's Neil know himself. He doesn't need me or anyone else telling him how bad it was. But if it wasn't for Stryak, we're conceding 8, 9, 10 goals, and that sounds an exaggeration, but it's the bloody truth.
I mean, to be fair, Martin, the stats prove it. I mean, if you find the
Yeah,
XG there,
I'll
it's pretty high for
yeah,
Celtic.
I'll bring up the stats just now. Like I say, it's not pretty. So for anyone that's into the stats, I think Killy Data put the XG up before and said it was the highest in terms of since like XG has been produced and started back in 2021. So 5.64 there, 33 shots on goal. I mean, 48 touches in the box as well. They were. It was an easy day for them. They weren't even in second gear. It was such a concern. I mean, every time Celtic bombed forward, I mean, Stephen, you probably had the fear that they just looked like scoring at every opportunity. And if it wasn't for Striak, who we've done to criticise too much, but he really did save us, didn't he, Stephen?
Yeah, he had a kind of indifferent game, didn't he? I mean,
Hmm.
I'd probably place him at fault for the second goal. I think that's he shouldn't be getting beat at his near post. Obviously the fourth one just speaks for itself. I mean, I don't know what he's doing there. I'm not sure he does, but again, doesn't need me telling him that. But he certainly in that in that first say that on 20 minutes that double save that he makes is just phenomenal. Because that's certainly a goal. So yeah, he had a really indifferent game. I felt quite a bit for him, and it'd be interesting to see whether McCann does similar to what Kettlewell does and maybe sticks the boy Ferry in for the cup against Ayr on Friday night. That might be pre-arranged anyway because it might well be that the number 2 keeper gets the cup games, so I can get that, but people may look into that if Max effectively looks as if he gets dropped. Hopefully, from a confidence point of view, that might be something. But again, we're trying to get inside the mind of McCann, which seems to be different for most of what everybody else was watching. Certainly looking at his kind of bullish comments and just naive it seemed. But overall, I think Max had he's got plenty of credit in the bank for me. And what he's came through in terms of his personal health, etc. Sort of thing. He had a bad day, but we're playing Celtic, who are probably going to be the champions, I think, this season. So you've got an £11 million striker who pretty irritating individual by the look of him in terms of if you're the opposition fan, liking to wind people up. But you know what, he was in the right place at the right time, but we just didn't make it over hard for him. That's my annoyance. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with Max. As I say, read the cup game. But maybe not to read too much into it because I think overall he had a decent game. That sounds bad when
I
we get
think he
beat
was the
5-1,
best.
but
I think he
he
was the
did well.
best, along with I think Kilty.
Kilty probably, yeah. I
Yeah,
think
and
Kilty, yeah.
I actually thought right that for for the limited attack that I actually thought Tyrese looked a lot better. I thought he was getting manhandled quite a lot and wasn't getting the rub of the green off the ref at times. And I thought he used his strength well. And for our goal, for we've talked about. I don't think we really need to go into depth now into it because it's quite evident of how bad we are. But what we must say is what a well worked goal we score from, and it's great play, and that must get credited, but it gets almost forgotten about because of what happened before and after that. It's a real shame because there was moments of brilliance, and you're thinking if we could just get that defence sorted, we do look like a half decent side, but I mean we're far from getting that defence sorted. And the only concern, I don't know, Laurie, what you think, but I mean we sort of talked about this last week. We've had, I mean, when you listen to Neil McCann on like Thursday when his interview came out, it seems to be he's quite happy with what he's got.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I imagine it's just typical media trained manager, especially from McCann, about keeping cards close to his chest. Although one thing Neil McCann did say about the defence is he totally poured cold water over the George Stenier thing that we mentioned earlier in the show. But I'm pretty sure that Neil McCann, or even maybe one of the analysts or something even will be telling him, right, come on, we need to get a defender in, and surely even he sees that that backline lacks experience. I was reading something on the X earlier, I can't credit who it was, who was pointing out that obviously Neil McCann is a former winger, and then obviously Doddsy is a ex-striker. It's like he's not really a defensive coach, so maybe the whole going gung ho thing is just in his nature. But I'm sure anyone worth their salt can identify that we have serious defensive issues. And I mean, I mentioned analysts there. I mean, Neil McCann on Sky was talking up his skill at analysing games. So say if the tables were turned and he was still a pundit in that Sky studio, he would be understandably ripping into the defending. So it really shouldn't be any different now. So we still have time between, of course, now and the end of the window, whether that be happening now, whether it's the end of this month or the start of next. We still have time, but we need to get the right type of defender in, whatever that looks like, be it the aforementioned Grant Hanley or someone of a different mould. But we need a lot of work in that area, and it is terrifying. And it's really terrifying as we move on into the derby because, of course, that's on Friday night. Ayrshire Derby returns, first competitive Ayrshire Derby from 2022. And I've got to say, Ayr have started the season pretty well. Dare we say that here on the Theatre of Pies podcast. But Gary Naismith, a man who some people at some point kind of seen as a left field killing manager shout, but I think that ship's maybe sailed. However, they have started the season pretty well. Well, they did drop points to Dunfermline yesterday, so there you go, got a draw. But I think we need to get a result in the derby, not just for bragging rights, no just for getting into a cup quarter final, but almost just for morale. So, Stephen, what do you think? Do you think we just need it as a morale booster, almost just to get us off the ground?
Yeah, I'm thinking if there was an advert for fans coming that maybe weren't going to. That clearly wasn't it today. Pretty alarming as well, the amount of fans that were disappearing around about me, anyway, in particular in the East Stand at the Fuller game, I think when I went to 4, which was what, on 70 odd minutes, was it? And the fourth one in, I think there was quite a few evaporated around about me. So yeah, I'm hoping we still get a big crowd in. There would be nothing better than to beat the other side of Ayrshire and show them what a real football stadium is, and a wee bit of glory, and the bragging rights will be all good. But I think after today, that isn't really the main concern. Really is today that we learn a lesson from it. I'm not sure. Possibly would implore the diamond system against Ayr United. I haven't really seen anything of them, so it might well be that would work against them. But I think he's certainly going to have to get in the training ground and see if I can get a bit of fight out of some of the players and get them up for it. And certainly back to basics. If Big Broadfoot's only in the building, I get that, but he's going to have to work pretty closely with the guys throughout the week, because you bet your bottom dollar Ayr United have got the same carrot as we have. It's the next round of the cup, isn't it? You think to yourself, there's a bit of glory attached to this sort of thing, and again, giant killing against us would be something they'll be well up for. So yeah, let's hope we can pick up and see where we go for there. I don't think anybody picked any injuries up today, so you're probably going with what you've got. German lad might be fit, so that might be, he might come in. Obviously, Big D's is going to come back, I would think, as well. He should stroll straight back into that team, probably at the expense of Big Stanger, in my opinion. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he tweaks the formation. But Ayr will definitely be up for the fight, and we just need to make sure we turn up for it.
Yeah, so just to bring you up to speed on our county cousins, up until this weekend, they had picked up maximum points both in the league and in the Premier Sports Cup, with victories over Stranraer, Premiership Falkirk, Edinburgh City, and Alloa. And then on match day one of the Championship, they beat Arbroath 2-0. And in terms of how they set it up in that game, they were playing a 4-3-3, according to FOTMOB, who of course are helping out a little bit on the pod this evening. And in the game yesterday, against Dunfermline, where they drew 1-1 away from home, they were set up in a 4-2-3-1 formation. So maybe this is the time to again ditch the diamond, get the wise men out there, match them up even. Like, I don't know, and one of the guys that was missing today, I don't know if there's any injuries or that there, Rashawn Maffrin, who I always thought looked like a bit of a bright spot, the winger, former Crystal Palace boy. I mean, you wonder whether someone like him could come back in. And Stephen, just quickly on your point before I go to Martin. Well, when it comes to getting Robbie Dees back in, I completely agree. He strolls back in. You said at the expense of Stanger. The only issue with that is, I think, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, I think both Dees and Yefeko are left-sided. So I wonder if that then leaves me kind of a conundrum. Or do you risk your Feck with a new boy out left back, put Larson over to the right, and take Jamie Brandon out? Just a thought.
Well, I mean, I think as Martin showed with his FOTMOB stats here, he was almost playing at left back today anyway. Yefeko, so it's not going to be much of a shift for him, is it?
No.
See, just your point on that, because I did think that as well when we were talking. I was talking to Neil at the match, and I actually noticed that Yefeka was quite comfortable at times at coming in and just passing it with his right foot. He didn't look, so I actually think Stephen's quite right that, I mean, if you had a choice, I would definitely be dropping Stanger. He just looks uncomfortable, whereas I think Yefeka, he does look comfortable on the ball, a bit naive, and it's actually quite ironic what you said, Stephen, that he did get caught out today at times pressing high up, and then he would recover at times. And it was a Rangers fan that I was speaking to on Friday, Scottish football podcast, Rangers and Celtic fans. So they said that the boy, that he was a bit like Bassey, in terms of quite a big unit, quite athletic, and that when he does make mistakes, he does recover, and you could sort of see that today. So I think for Yefeko, it's a project player, and having someone like Dees alongside him would be pretty beneficial. Nothing against Stanger, but I do feel that out of the two, that would be the best one. But having said that, being at left back today pretty much as well, you can sort of see he would be pretty comfortable there, and Sean and Larson on the right. So yeah, that is, I can actually see both happening. It wouldn't surprise me if either or happened there, Laurie, in what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. It was just a passing thought when Stephen you suggested that, and I think you're quite right. We need Robbie Dees back in there because, as of course Monty from Forever and Ever used to say, maybe he regrets it. He did say Dees is good, so yeah. But I just think the game now takes on a whole new kind of complexion and stuff because we need to think it's very much not just about the bragging rights, as we said, not just about proving that we're the only team in Ayrshire, but we almost need to prove to ourselves that we're capable because Ayr are a solid outfit. I'm going to give Ayr a bit of respect. We mentioned maximum points up until the weekend there, where to be fair, they only got a draw against Dunfermline away home. It's not exactly a bad result. They're a team who will fancy themselves at least getting into that playoff hunt in the championship. I was talking to someone rather well connected at my county cousins during the week who will remain anonymous, but I think even they weren't particularly confident. I think they maybe thought we were going to be a little bit better than we were, maybe the likes of today. But I tell you what, they'll fancy their chances. But I'd be interested to see how Ayr approach it because the last few times we've played them, I've always felt Ayr were quite standoffish. Even in the testimonial game, I know it was effectively a friendly last season, but I remember even in that they were super standoffish, albeit under different management at the time. But if I was them, I would try and go for it.
An interesting one here, just on the topic of centre backs and that now. Interestingly, David Hanna, friend of the pod, I think Stanger is a better option at right back than centre half. Interesting opinion there. Now, I've got to say, Brandon for me, I do like him as a player, but he's not the sort of player I was expecting. I mean, there was a instance in the first half where he got the ball and then he knocked the ball past someone to try and overtake him, and Kieran Tierney's then coming up to him, and I'm like, "What are you doing? Just knock it down the line, knock it down the line for Hugel to run onto or something." It was just bizarre. Whereas Stanger, I suppose, he looks a bit uncomfortable on the ball, but I think at right back he would probably. I actually can see where David's coming from on that. I don't know what your thoughts are, Laurie or Stephen.
I think to be fair, no for me. I don't think at right back. To be fair, for Stanger, you could actually put Ring. Ring's played at right back as well, hasn't he? So
He's not a right back though.
No, he isn't.
He looked uncomfortable in the first half.
Neither really is
Last
Stanger. In reality, he's. I don't think that.
But he's defensive minded.
Yeah, it's no for me. I don't think.
No,
but I don't think he's. I don't think he's up to it. I thought Brandon was really poor today as well. For I mean, I just don't. He's just For me, he's no at the pace. But no, I don't think. I personally don't think that David's got anything in that. I wouldn't.
The German lad though might come into play.
Yeah, he's played. That's what I said earlier. Depending on his fitness as to whether he plays, he could well come back in and play right back. He's played both right and left back, hasn't he? In reality, so again, he could easily be the change and just Stanger going out altogether rather than thinking about putting him it's a position that he might not be overly comfortable in.
It's a weird one because I always thought fullbacks, now that we signed these two boys, even though they can play centre back, they're predominantly known as fullbacks. I wasn't really worried about it, but having watched today, it does concern me more because I think we do. But then does an experienced centre back help the fullbacks in possession? I don't know. For me, I think the main priority is getting that experienced centre back in, and are we going to get it as another thing? Now, interestingly, David Hanna, I know David Hanna. I'm sure he sort of knows a bit about Stanger. So he says that he played right back when he was younger. So interesting to see that there.
Maybe there is something in that. I mean, like yourself, Stephen, I wasn't overly convinced by it, but then I just played it when he's younger. He's been one of the worst options. That's a good tidbit of knowledge there, David, and it was good to see you in the park hotel earlier as well. But I think defensively, it feels like it's the whole picture really. It's not just an experienced centre back who play the right back. And just quickly before we go back to Derby chat briefly, the German fullback, so Yoni Meyer, pronounce it Yoni, not Johnny, and Neil McCann was pretty insistent on that on Friday. And I think obviously McCann sees him as a starting right back, but based on what Neil McCann was saying, he's quite a few weeks behind when it comes to pre-season training due to some sort of injury that he picked up while still out in Germany. But fingers crossed he can be fit soon. And I tell you what, an Ayrshire Derby would be some way to announce yourself to Come On fans, especially the first German to have ever signed for this club. So yeah, but I think the Derby itself, let's try and be optimistic. So we're hoping in the ditch the diamond we've managed to gather between the three of us. Let's hope and just hope we can maybe use that bit of positive momentum. But speaking of positive momentum, obviously the way Neil McCann played, as we've been discussing all night, as we've been lost in the grass. Are we just going to be that sort of team who will get a hammer in, but sometimes give one out? Wouldn't it be great if we did it to our rivals?
Yeah. I said last week that I don't think it'll be easy, and having watched the game today, I stand by that. Even more so, to the point that I think it could go either way. I really do. I don't. As much as I describe us as a top six attack, bottom six defense, and I
Yeah.
mean, it is a worry because Ayr always seems to start the season really well. Majority of the time, I know David Hanna, as we just mentioned, there's a big fan of Gary Naismith and what he did at Stenhousemuir. He started off really well at our rivals. At the end of the day, it's a cup match. It's the rivalry. It's more than just the rivalry. And as Stephen alluded to earlier, Ayr United will want to win this as much as anything to get through to the next round for them. So, to be honest, I couldn't call it. I do feel that if we're gonna, I can, if I was to put a bet on it or whatever, I would say that we will scrape it. I think it'll be 1-1 in normal time, and I think we'll win it in extra time, 2-1. If it's extra time, or is it penalties?
It is extra time and
It's
penalty.
extra time, yeah.
This can go the distance, unfortunately.
Yeah, so I think we'll win it 2-1 in extra time. I think that they will give us a good game. I think they'll bring a big crowd down. I think they'll be buzzing after seeing our two results, which won't help, as well. I think our confidence is going to be a bit shot in the foot. And I do feel as though, and I hate to say it, but I really do feel as though our defensive frailties will come to bite us in that game as well. I don't think it's going to be a quick fix, but I do feel as though we've got enough attack to see him off, and it'll be a scrappy one, like I say, in extra time. So that's my prediction.
So we're gonna win it 2-1 after extra time, according to you,
Yep.
Martin. There we go. And Stephen, how do you think it'll go for a round of 16 tie against them, as they were called, people leaving the ground today, rightly as well?
Yeah, I think some of what Martin says is true. I think it'll be a tough encounter, but I see us going to 2-0. I don't think they'll score. I think I'll put two front men are actually going to score for us. I think Hugo and Tyrese will score the goals. It'll be no. I think it'll be late. I think we're going to. It'll be second half before we get fully on top of the game. But I think we've got more than enough to beat them. So I'm going to go for 2-0.
2-0, and I'll be ever the optimist and say 3-0. I think we're going to do it simply because I kind of feel like this might be the sort of game that actually suits the kind of Neil McCann style and the way we've been talking, because I just think, especially the sort of character Neil McCann is, kind of firecracker type, I wonder if he'll just get the players right up for this. And obviously, as we're saying, raucous crowd on the TV as well. Hopefully the Chadwick is full also, because I know the Derby's great. I mean, I've heard a lot of chat around has the Derby been diluted in recent years with friendlies, testimonials, etc. But now this is the real Derby. We're back at it, and it's now just our job to prove that we are indeed the only team in Ayrshire. But of course, we're not exactly the only team in Ayrshire. Of course, we've got Kilmarnock FC women as well, who were a bit unfortunate today in Motherwell in the Sky Sports Cup. But Stephen, are we not still kind of on course by the looks of it to progress anyway, despite the narrow feet?
Yeah, we're fourth on the table in fairness, Laurie. So it's quite a tight affair that today, because Motherwell went up 1-0 in 6 minutes, but the captain, fantastic, Laura, came back with a header to make it 1-1 in sort of 15 minutes, and they scored just before half time, Motherwell, and then Cara Gray, who's clearly she likes the goals as well. She apparently got what was described as a tap in. A corner, a well worked corner, but a tap in to make it 2-2. However, 6 minutes later, Motherwell edged it and scored. So a pretty close game. Certainly a bit closer than ours.
They won in the week as well, away at Falkirk and that. So
it's pretty decent performance. I think just slightly unfortunate at the end up there, sort of thing. But yeah, they're fourth on the table. So yeah, the Sky Sports, there's quite I think we put the table up earlier in the chat, Laurie, as well, just to sort of see the teams that were
Yes.
on it. So you can read it to the top. I think Montrose are at the top, weren't they? Montrose, then Motherwell, Hamilton, and then ourselves.
Montrose were certainly flying high. I remember we looked at
Yeah,
it.
I think it's a three-way tie with us, Hamilton and Motherwell in terms of 9 points, because we've gained so far. Montrose are at top with 12. So
Yeah,
we're in the hunt.
It's
very
a new
very much
format, isn't it?
yeah, very much in the hunt. So, as you said, spot on, Stephen. Montrose top of the group with 12, and then Motherwell, who we played today, Hamilton Accies, and ourselves are on 9, as is Spartans as well. So, from second to fifth are all on 9
Tight,
points.
yeah.
And then you've got Boroughmuir in sixth place on 6 points. So, yeah, so the top 5 of that, or 4 of those 5, is really, really tight and tough to call. And I think we're in a good position, and obviously the women are yet to kick off their campaign in FWPL2. Although, of course, they're rather frustrated to be there, so I'm sure they're going to come out there and try and prove a point and get themselves up finally this time. We thought last year was going to be the year, but fingers crossed it is going to be this year. And for anyone who isn't overly clued up on the women's game but wanting to get more involved, of course they are usually on your Sunday afternoons. But for now, just keep an eye on the club socials to find out where we're playing, because Bibby Park isn't quite ready to host the women's games quite yet. So they're going between Cumnock and Ardrossan. So keep an eye on that one. But of course, you can get in there rather inexpensively as well. And I believe it is still free if you have a men's season ticket. So get yourself along there if you can.
I wish I was there today.
It would have been, even though the team lost, I'm quite sure it would have been better. I mean, Chatfield was quite entertaining.
I only went to see the pitch. That's what I wish I'd just walked in, seen the pitch, walked back out. Right, I'll go down the road.
So do I. 'Cause I could have been on the radio today. Yeah.
Oh, you know the killy's back when you don't want to be there.
Yeah.
But no, I actually stayed till the end. To be fair, you know, usually
Same.
I mean, see when it was 3-0, people walking out, and then 4-0, and I'm like, what am I doing here? Like, usually I'm like, no, we'll walk, but I made a promise that I would never do that again, and I suffered in pain, because you know you've got to get the suffering to get the good times, and it's only 2 games in. Someone reminded me earlier on a prediction that I'd done for the league for the season, and it was don't know who it is, but it's someone on the team saying that went well, and I'm like, mate, 2 games in, like, you know, so I'll respond back to him in May if I have to.
Yeah.
But Stephen, I know you wanted to mention something about the ladies as we're on the subject of it. You've got an announcement.
Big news.
Yeah, well, we shall quiz the prolific goal scorer that is Laura Hamilton, the team captain, because she's done us a privilege of coming on.
Laura McLaughlin, rather.
Sorry, McLaughlin. Yeah, there you go.
Jesus Christ, man.
I'm just checking to see you were still with us, guys, because I know you've done the quite with both teams. I know I'm keeping the flag flying high for the girls. So yeah, Laura's kindly agreed to come on next Sunday in an interview with us. I believe she's going to bring some ammunition with her as well, still to be announced, and we'll get revealed the candidates for that one. But Laura will definitely be on next Sunday, probably around 8:20 sort of thing. So we'll go through, we'll dissect the victory against Ayr first of all, and then we shall go into the girls, and she can tell us along with a wee bit of wriggling, I'm sure, for asking her about last season. She can tell us about some of the exciting new signings, because we've got quite a few new signings who seem to be a bit younger as well this year, so she can maybe give us a wee feature on some of the girls that have came on board, and give us a bit of a running order as to how well she thinks they're going to go this season, when they're really going to realistically get into Bowie Park. Is that going to be this season or is it not? And just sort of give us a bit of heads up. And I'm sure we'll pull a leg about a favourite TV programme, and who's the worst in the dressing room at being dressed, and who's the DJ and all that kind of stuff. So thanks to Laura in advance for agreeing to come on. So yeah, for all yous uneducated out there in terms of the women's game, I'm sure Laura will put that right next Sunday. So yeah, but a big thanks to her for agreeing to come on.
Yeah, and great job as well, Stephen, getting that set up. So, of course, thank you very much. Because, of course, the more exposure the women's team gets, the better. Whether you make it along to games, whether you're following it on the socials, following it on here, that's why we're always desperate to give it a shout out. Because the girls have always been very supportive of us, even previously as well. Although I remember previously, I think the last time Laura was on a podcast that we did, I'm quite sure she gave Lucy Burns a bit of a ribbing, and Lucy Burns was sat in the waiting room having to listen in silence.
Something
So
to do with
Yeah,
me.
there's a wee technical issue there with that one, but that certainly won't be happening again. So yeah, I was just gonna say one other thing there, Laurie. I like the choice of Instagram post up. Bon
yeah,
Jovi, Keep the Faith. I like the song, and I think that's quite appropriate as well. So definitely keep the faith, because I think there was a few tweets I was seeing losing heads and all that already, and I think as much as it's been a really really bad start, I think we need to sort of remember that Neil McCann was the one that took us from somewhere that was unthinkable. So we need to give him a chance to rectify what he has put wrong so far. I think that's a fair shout, Laurie.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was very much. I thought "Keep the Faith" was an appropriate soundtrack over on Instagram, because I always try and be quite tongue in cheek with the songs. I don't tend to go tongue in cheek or on brand in terms of like what Kelly want to play. But what I would say is "Keep the Faith" I just felt was the right sort of message to send out, because the exact reason you said about the guy in your prediction, Martin, we're 2 games in, so we can't get too hung up. Of course, there is the elephant in the room. You could say we're 2 games in, we're 9 conceded and all this. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But of course, we have had a difficult start. So let's stick together. And of course, let's just end it like this. Together, we are stronger. Together, we are Kelly. And together, we're going to all prove that there's only one team in Ayrshire. And whatever happens, Morning Kelly.
I'm on the Kelly.